Carla stood at the kitchen sink, absent-mindedly scrubbing dishes as her mind wandered. The house was quiet. Too quiet. James had been coming home late more often lately, always with some flimsy excuse about work running late or last-minute meetings. She used to accept his explanations without question, but now there was a knot of unease in her chest. Maybe it was the subtle changes in his behavior, the way he avoided eye contact, the extra care he took with his appearance, the way his phone never seemed to leave his side. She couldn't help but feel something was off. Every night she told herself she was overthinking, but deep down, she knew that her gut was telling her the truth. Something was wrong. As Carla dried the last dish, she heard the familiar sound of James's key in the lock. The door creaked open, and he stepped inside, his face flushed, his smile too wide. "Hey, honey," he greeted her, a little too cheerfully. Carla turned to face him, forcing a smile of her own. "How was work?" she asked, her voice casual, but she was already bracing for another vague explanation. "Same old, you know. Long day," James replied, quickly heading to the bedroom to change. Carla stood in the kitchen, her mind racing. She needed to know more. She couldn't live in this limbo of suspicion anymore. She grabbed her phone and quickly searched for the private investigator her friend had mentioned weeks ago. It felt extreme, but she had no other choice. The investigator, a woman named Lucy, called Carla the next day. They arranged to meet at a small cafe where Carla could explain everything without being overheard. As they sat across from each other, Carla felt her heart racing. "I don't know if I'm being paranoid," she began, her hands shaking as she spoke. "But my husband's been acting strange. He comes home late, he's distant, and I think he's hiding something." Lucy listened attentively, her expression neutral but focused. "I've seen this before," she said softly, sliding a small notepad in front of her. "I can look into it for you. We'll start with the basics, his routine, his whereabouts. If there's anything to find, I'll find it." Carla nodded, her throat tight. She hated feeling like this, but it was the only way to get the truth. Days passed, and Carla tried to act normal around James, though it was becoming increasingly difficult. She found herself scrutinizing everything he did, every phone call, every moment he spent looking at his screen, every time he left the house. She hated the growing paranoia within her, but she couldn't stop it. Meanwhile, Lucy was working quietly in the background, following James, checking his records, gathering information. Carla avoided asking too many questions, knowing that any premature confrontation could ruin the investigation. She had to be patient, but it was harder than she'd imagined. Every minute felt like an eternity. The waiting gnawed at her, and every time James smiled at her, she wondered if it was all an act. Then, one evening, Lucy called. "I've got something," she said, her voice steady but serious. "It's not what you might expect, but I think you should see for yourself." They arranged to meet the next day, and Carla spent the night tossing and turning, wondering what Lucy had uncovered. Was it an affair? Was James seeing someone else? Or was she wrong, and maybe there was nothing sinister going on after all? The next day, when Carla arrived at the cafe, Lucy slid an envelope across the table. Inside were several photos of James taken over the past week, but he wasn't with another woman. Instead, he was meeting with a man Carla had never seen before. They were always in different places, but each time their interaction seemed intense, secretive. Carla's brow furrowed as she examined the photos. "Who is this man?" she asked, her voice shaking slightly. Lucy leaned forward, her voice low. "I've been looking into him. His name is Derek Shaw. He's a known figure in some questionable circles." Carla felt her heart race. "What kind of circles?" she asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. "Illegal dealings, black market activities," Lucy explained. "I haven't been able to pin down exactly what your husband's involvement is, but it's clear they're meeting for more than just casual conversation." Carla's mind reeled. This was worse than she had imagined. It wasn't an affair. It was something far more dangerous. She felt her stomach drop. "What do I do now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucy's face softened, and she gave Carla a sympathetic look. "You need to be careful," she advised. "If your husband is involved in something illegal, you could be at risk too. I suggest we continue monitoring him. Gather more information before you confront him. Right now, it's crucial that you don't tip him off that you know anything." Carla nodded, though her mind was spinning. How had her life taken such a sudden, dark turn? She had expected to find proof of an affair, but now she was plunged into a world of secrecy and potential danger. As she left the cafe, her legs felt weak and her thoughts raced. Who was James, really? Had she ever truly known him? The man she'd married seemed like a stranger now. That evening, when James returned home, Carla struggled to keep her composure. She watched him as he moved around the house, his demeanor calm and casual, as if nothing was amiss. But now, every word he said, every action he took, felt like a calculated move. She was on edge, terrified of slipping up and revealing that she knew something. She tried to ask subtle questions, probing him gently about his day, but James answered them smoothly, without hesitation. It only deepened her suspicions. If he was hiding something this big, he was good at it. Too good. As the days passed, Carla found herself living in constant fear, waiting for the moment when everything would unravel. She felt like a stranger in her own life. A few weeks later, Lucy called again. "We've got more," she said, her voice tense. Carla's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" she asked, dreading the answer. "Your husband's involvement with Derek Shaw goes deeper than we initially thought," Lucy explained. "It looks like James is part of some kind of smuggling operation. We're not sure what they're moving yet, but it's big. There's a lot of money involved." Carla felt her chest tighten. Smuggling? Her husband was involved in smuggling? She couldn't believe it. The man she had shared her life with, the man she thought she knew, was part of something criminal. She sat down heavily on the couch, her head spinning. This was worse than she had ever imagined. "What do I do now?" Carla asked, her voice breaking. Lucy sighed on the other end of the line. "You need to protect yourself, Carla. If this goes south, James could get caught, and you don't want to be caught in the crossfire. I'd recommend distancing yourself from him, but doing it carefully. He can't know you're onto him." Carla nodded, though fear gripped her. She had to play this smart, but how? Every day she spent with James felt like a game of chess, where one wrong move could lead to disaster. She began quietly making preparations, setting up a separate bank account, planning where she could go if things got dangerous. But every time James looked at her, she had to pretend that everything was fine. The tension in the house was unbearable. James seemed oblivious, continuing his secret meetings and coming home late as usual. But Carla was watching him now, every move, every lie, and it tore her apart inside. She knew she couldn't keep this up forever. The truth would come out eventually, one way or another. One night, as she lay in bed next to James, staring at the ceiling, she realized that the man she once loved was gone. Or maybe he had never really existed at all. This James, the man wrapped up in illegal activities, wasn't the person she had married. She had to accept that. The next morning, she decided to leave. She would take their daughter and disappear before everything exploded. Carla packed a small bag for her and their daughter, careful not to leave any obvious clues. She didn't want James to realize what was happening until it was too late. She booked a hotel in a nearby town, far enough away to feel safe, but not so far that it would raise suspicion. That evening, she told James she was taking their daughter to visit her mother for a few days. He didn't seem to care, too wrapped up in whatever shady dealings consumed his time. As Carla drove away, her heart pounded in her chest, a mix of fear and relief. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew one thing. She couldn't stay in the dark any longer. It was time to take control of her life again.